Hey everyone, how are you? It's Beth Davis. You are listening to another episode of Align to Your Design. And today I have two very special guests for you, two extraordinary women. They are artists, they are storytellers, they are filmmakers, and they are the co-owners of the nonprofit Dear Woman Productions, which is dedicated to telling positive and modern Native stories. And they dedicated this collaboration in honor of one of their beloved and now deceased, unfortunately, friends, Peyton Canku. And so we're going to get to hear a bit about how Peyton's memory helped inspire these two women to come together to join forces with their incredible talents and vision to help share with people stories that you may or may not be aware of, and to bring a fuller perspective to how they see the world and what they see going on in the world. So if you want to find out more about our amazing guests, you can find their links to contact them and their bios in the description. I want to get right into the conversation with them. So please get ready for an amazing conversation with the incredible Candice Dalsing and Rebekka Schlichting. And I'm going to bring them on right now to Align to Your Design. Hey.
Hi,
Hello.
Beth.
Thanks for having
Hi.
us.
Oh, it's so nice to see you all. In fact, I'm going to just make sure that our audience can see what I see. Okay. So, so good to have you.
Good to be
Tell
here.
me a bit, Candice, let's start with you. Who's Peyton to you?
So, Peyton was a really good friend of myself and Rebekka. I met Peyton many years ago through a mutual friend, and she was a writer, and she was amazing and one of my best friends. And she had goals and aspirations to be a screenwriter and bring more Native lives in front of the camera and behind the camera. So she was always talking to me about working with Rebekka and meeting up with Rebekka. And during her life, we just kind of didn't. And then after her passing is when Rebekka and I really started to come together and find space with each other. And we created Dear Woman Productions in Peyton's name and memory and dedicated this entire organization in her memory.
And Rebekka, how about for you? What does
So I
Peyton
was
mean to
going,
you?
yeah, so I was going to grad school at the University of Nebraska, Lincoln, and we came across each other through the Unite group there. It's a United Tribes student group. And I don't know, after a while we just hit it off and started hanging out, and then it turned into ice cream runs at 2 o'clock in the morning and just laughing all the time. And no matter what we would be doing, we would find ourselves being comfortable in whatever situation it was, whether it was just at my house laying down on the floor and chatting, or being in a pool and just having really deep conversations about life and about our dreams and our goals and about our people and about our histories and the struggles that our people and our own families have gone through to be here today. And so it's been really hard for me to lose her, really, really hard. But the strength of her community and her family have also uplifted us, and it's been an amazing experience. And she was one of those friends that don't come around very often. They don't come along in life very often, and you're very lucky if they do. She just cared to the max. She loved so hard and deeply, and it's it's like a hole without her, but it is pretty amazing that Candice and I have come together because of her. And we knew she was 1 month shy of graduating with her master's in screenplay writing, which she fought so hard to get. She was battling against two autoimmune diseases, depression, PTSD, and she was, a source of strength for a lot of people. And she was also very active on the lesbian TikTok as well. And she was very inspiring, but she would never admit that, you know, she never saw her own strength. She was a very humble person, a very kind and humble person, but always just loved fiercely and put everybody else ahead of herself. And so she inspires me today to, you know, to handle things that I got to handle in life, and to keep this project going in her name and in good ways.
Mm. So you decided to call your production company Dear Woman. Can you both tell me what that is for you?
So some tribes, they're like, don't say that, don't say that name because she'll come around. But Dear Woman is this myth, I guess. But some people think it's real. Like people are like, yeah, she's real. But around powwows, you go around and you see a really beautiful young lady, and you don't know that she's a deer until you look at her feet. Then you see hooves. But she lures men into the woods and kills them, people who've done bad things. So not just men, but some women. It really picked up last. I apologize.
Oh, that's all right.
Oh,
Hey, hi there. I know
Oh,
how
hi,
that feels.
Elizabeth.
sorry. Okay, is your dad here? No. Okay, well, you guys need to go into the other room and just calm down for a bit because I'm on an interview right now. Okay, well, please go into 2 separate rooms for the moment. I'm sorry.
No, don't worry about it.
We can
Our
edit that out.
audience,
That'd be
our
great. But
audience
if
is
not, it's fine. Like the
the
audience can.
audience is mostly women, so don't worry about it. Like we know about kids. It's totally great.
Uh,
It's totally great. Don't worry. It's like special. It's like there's life. Yeah, look at life.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is the
Okay.
realities of
Yeah.
working from home as a millennial, whatever the heck's going on in my life.
Uh-huh.
Realities of working from home. Um, yeah. So sometimes dad has to step out to go get food, and that's what he did. Just when I'm happy
Right.
with this. And I'm lucky that I have him and he is stay-at-home dad. I completely have no idea what I was just. Oh, Dear
Oh,
Woman.
dear woman. Yeah, so she'd take the bad dudes off into the woods and dispense with them.
Yes, yes. So
Yes.
she gained some popularity a couple of years ago. Like she's always been popular with a lot of different tribes, but on Reservation Dogs, the second season, they started talking about her story. And it was really funny because they introduced Dear Woman as a character in this second season. And I called Peyton afterward and I was like, I had this dream. So after I watched the episode, I went to sleep or whatever. I had this dream about the origin story of Dear Woman. I called Peyton and I told her about it. And she was like, you should make that into a film. That sounds so cool. And I was like, yeah, that does sound cool. And then so then she passes, and then season 3 of Reservation Dogs comes out, and they have the origin story, which wasn't the one I dreamed of, but it's pretty awesome. Season 3, you got to see the Dear Woman episode because it's pretty good, but it's her origin story, and they tie it back into some trauma that a lot of Native people went through with boarding school and the boarding school era. And so in there, she's a kid and she's going through boarding school and she runs away and she gets safety from a deer. She's able to become part deer and to run away from the abuse that she was facing at the boarding school. And then she goes and kills all the bad people from the boarding school. It's awesome. She's a badass, and
Yeah.
that's why we were inspired. I mean, we're working on some stuff and we'll get into that later, I'm sure, but we're working on some stuff and it's horror stuff. And so this is like a horror story native native lore. So that's kind of
Wow.
where it came from.
Thank you.
Yeah. And it's
Candace?
like, yeah, a lot of people are like, don't say that name, don't say that name. But for us, we've got nothing to fear. We welcome her. So that's how I feel, you know, like if you don't have anything to fear in that realm of like what she fights against as the vigilante, the strong, badass female vigilante that she is, then why be scared of saying her name?
Yeah.
Why not sit down and have a meal with her and be like, thank you.
Yes. I'm happy that that particular archetype is the one you chose. It's very appropriate to these times that the women reclaiming that depth of power and that deep connection to wilderness. It's incredible. All right, so now you have a production company and you're working together. So what kind of projects do you look for? Either one of you can take that.
Yeah, I think a
Yeah.
lot of stuff we're searching for and coming across is, well, it's always native focused, but we're really focused on the authenticity part of it, which means native people telling our own stories. So native people behind the camera, in the writing, in editing, and everything like that, not just on screen, because for so long we've been covered on screen, and it gets romanticized, it gets stereotyped, and things get totally edited out of proportion. And it's caused generation and generations of stereotyping and misunderstanding of Native Americans and how we are today. I've been asked if I live in a teepee, and to me that is ridiculous because we haven't lived in teepees for a very long time. And so it's very silly to me that people, when they see a Native person, only think of the stuff they've seen on TV, which sadly is mostly in the past. And so we're focused on, breaking those stereotypes, breaking down those barriers, showing people doing great things in these modern ways, and uplifting each other.
Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely like to have a high percentage of Native Americans behind the camera as well. And we really try to create as many opportunities for the community that we possibly can. So I'm a descendant of the Apache Mescalero tribe. So I have that Native element in me. And for me personally, I really would like to try and do as much good for that part of the community that I have within me and be something positive for the world to see, because like native blood, you look like you don't always look the same if you're native. There's a lot of different uh colors of skin, there's a lot of different hair types, there's a lot of different personalities. And it it's a beautiful thing when you get in a room filled with native humans and the culture and all the creativity that sparks and all the passion that's behind it, and finally hearing these voices and finally being able to help bring it to the foreground is something that I think is also really important as well.
Thank you. Rebekka, will you share a bit about your background?
How much?
Well,
No,
you'll
yeah,
you'll
no.
know.
So I grew up on the Second Fox Reservation, but I'm a member of the Iowa tribe of Kansas and Nebraska. The reservations partner each other. They're right next door to each other. And I that's my foundation. So growing up, being in a Native community until I left for college. And when I came to college, I went to the University of Kansas, and this is where I really picked up on how ignorant people are about Native people. Because before then, I was lucky enough to be sheltered in my own community and not have people question my identity and things like that, or say you're exotic or whatever it may be. Um, and so I went to the University of Kansas for undergrad in journalism, and then University of Nebraska for my master's program where I met Peyton. After that, I worked for the nonprofit called Vision Maker Media, and Vision Makers absolutely has the same mission as we do pretty much. And so I feel like all of my work that I did there really bleeds into what I'm doing here, which is just meant to be. It's amazing. They're a nonprofit that's funded by CPB, Corporation for Public Broadcasting, to fund Native filmmakers to tell their own stories. And so um, I did a lot of work with them for a few years, 4 years, and then now I'm teaching at the University of Kansas as a professor in journalism, in addition to running this nonprofit with Candice. And I also oversee my tribe's powwow, and I'm on the culture committee. I'm on the local film festival committee here, and the local arts commission as well. And I have two lovely children who came in earlier, 4 and 9, and they fight a lot. And my wonderful husband, who's Comanche.
Yeah. So, will you share with us about the powwow and what that means to your people,
Yeah.
its significance, and what it means to you?
So powwows came around after contact, and when I say contact, I mean that's when white people came over
Mm.
here. So after contact, we needed a way to kind of get together and celebrate. And so the origin goes back to Lakota times, and they would get together and have dances and sing and stuff to uplift each other and heal each other during these war times when we were fighting to keep our lands. And so from there, there was this big fear because white people thought we were doing like black magic or whatever you want to call it, like bad medicine, or is what we say, but like they think they were doing like magic against them to kill them off of our lands, but that wasn't the case at all. So for a long time, a lot of our rituals, and even until the 90s, some of our cultural practices were completely banned from the United States. And so we went behind closed doors. We practiced these things behind trees. We practiced these things not always in the open because of that hate and that misunderstanding that we've had towards our rituals for so long, or our ceremonies for so long. And so there are still some ceremonies that you cannot access if you're not a part of that community. But a lot more powwows are becoming a social gathering that are intertribally focused, and they're open to everybody. And it's a good time for learning for the public for sure. And a lot of colleges nowadays have powwows too with their student groups so that people can be educated about Native culture and how we celebrate and things like that. So behind me I have ribbon skirts. Those are what I would wear to a ceremony or a powwow. But it's really just a social gathering, and there's lots of dancing and singing. There's lots of vendors like native arts and crafts. I mean, some people, it's their living to make crafts or make arts and sell it at powwows or sell it at these
Mm.
different events and things like that. So it's always good to support native artists in that way. And then people cook too. And you got to have an Indian taco if you've never had one. They're amazing with fry bread. Got to have some fry bread because they're so good, so good. That's one of our staples. It's actually not a bread that is traditional to our diets, but it's something that we had to rely on because when we were moved around in different reservations and forced to different lands and everything where we didn't know how to use the medicines or how to use the land, or maybe it was desolate, we were forced to live on these government rations, and oil and flour was a big one that they had. And so you mix that with baking soda, salt, sometimes sugar, whatever else you might have. Some people have different recipes. Put all that together and fry it up in oil and make some delicious bread. And so some people call that slave bread because it comes from that time period, but it's definitely a staple in our diet. Yeah, go ahead, snack. Um, so yeah, that's a little bit about powwows. I would say that the drum is really healing and it has a lot of power, and we call that our grandfather. There's a lot of rules for different dances and things, but if you listen to the announcer, they'll tell you the rules and you can learn a lot from being there. So
Yeah, and thank you. And Candice, is there anything from your native tradition that has stood out for you or is a touchstone for you?
Well, for me and my family, I wasn't really exposed to my native side a whole lot. And when you're a kid and running around with your cousins and stuff, and you just happen to be on a reservation, you don't think about it. And then when you're older, uh, you kind of start to realize like, okay, wait, what is my lineage here? Like, what am I? Because for the longest time I was like, okay, my last name, well, I have two last names. One of them's Ortega and the other one is Dalsing. So I was just like, I'm Mexican. And then my grandmother sat me down one day and she was like, your great grandmother was born on the reservation. Like your great grandmother, we're native. We come from a very beautiful history line of Apache. And so I didn't even really start to be able to address that part of me until I was older. And I have been able to go to a few powwows and sweat lodges, and those are amazing experiences for me. Like a sweat lodge, what you get out of that personally, that for me is very, very healing and beautiful. And so through this, I'm really able to explore a lot more of the culture and kind of get to know my ancestors in a way. And I am sort of trying to dedicate a lot of my life to going back into my own heritage and seeing where we come from. And that was one thing that Peyton and I got to really talk about a lot because I hadn't really told a lot of people that I was Native. It's not something that, like I look totally white out in the world and still coming around and saying you're Native, like that's not, ooh. So, and just kind of trying to find a home within that and trying to, Peyton really did bring a lot of home for me with that. And we talked a lot about it, and she was always extremely supportive of me diving into it and really trying to find my roots in it. And I think, that's kind of what I hold on to the most with it is that feeling of that urgency that I want to search and find the answers to who my ancestors were and are, and what can I do to help the community? What can I do to give back?
Does it feel like service?
Yeah, I guess so. It's more or less being a, a good human in the world and giving a good example to the rest of the world about who you want to be and who you want to surround yourself with, and giving exposure to the things that are not necessarily known to the rest of the world, so we don't have these stereotypes out here. Because like a lot of, like Rebekka was saying, there is, when a Native person gets cast, mostly it's always that stereotypical Native person. They're not just humans in the world being humans. So kind of creating that change and making sure that Native lives are cast in films that just like everybody else, like your next door neighbor or the main character. So
Mm.
I guess it's like service, but I think it's more, for me personally, it's about just trying to be a decent human being.
Yeah, I would say
Yeah.
for me, it doesn't, I would never put the label service. I don't know why it feels like a label, but I have to do service for like the University of Kansas. So that's what makes me think of why this is kind of different. But for me, it's more like this is just how our people are. We just, it's in us to give back to ourselves. It's more collective. It's not this idea of I, it's this idea of we. And so when we're uplifting these stories, telling these stories, we're doing this for our people and the future generations of our people. And that's just a part of our culture.
Mhm.
That's just who we are.
So Rebekka, I'll ask you this first, and then Candice, you can take it as well. But how do you choose the stories and projects that you decide to produce?
Well, they go through a vetting system, which we're currently kind of working on, because we do have some people that come to us that have great ideas or maybe have stories that they want to share that, but they need a native person to be, they really want a native person on the team, or they really think that it might be a good fit for us. And in some cases, it works out and it's great. I mean, we're two people and we have other things going on, so we have a lot going on in our lives in addition to making film. And if you're in film, you know that it's it's not easy. You got to do what you got to do to get things made and everything. So and to pay the bills, right? So it's not easy. I have way too many jobs. That, so we are building a team though within that. So hopefully we can take on more. And right now, part of that team is hiring somebody that can vet these stories for us and kind of say, is this appropriate? Does this align with our mission? But it's mostly mission driven.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we uh like Rebekka said, we are kind of building this amazing team. And right now it just happens to be amazing, awesome, badass Native women. And one of them, who's Marcy Black, she's part of the Oto Missouri tribe. She is phenomenal and she has so many amazing ideas. She's super talented. She is an artist all around, and we kind of brought her on to be a script screener for us. So, we get sent scripts, we send them to her, and we have like a criteria that we're still kind of hammering out exactly what those things are. We have like a basic outline of what it is, but she gets it. So she'll read something and be like, "This is amazing, yes," or she'll read something and be like, "Don't think it's for us." So that's been extremely helpful. And then we also have another amazing human that we're working with. Her name is Annette Arkakita, and she's kind of come on, and we're in talks with her about doing other projects together and helping this sort of movement grow.
Tell me about your involvement with the documentary Bring Them Home. Can you both share about that?
Yeah, we're national and global impact producers for Bring Them Home. So Bring Them Home is this wonderful film about the Blackfeet bringing back um, buffalo, and not just bringing them back, but bringing them and rewilding them so that they can restore justice to our ecosystem and our prairie system that has been needed for so long. Um, and so we are in charge of calling up people, calling up organizations, other tribes, and saying, hey, do you want to screen this film for your community? Because it's a great film and we really want to get the word out there. In addition to that, we're putting together events where people come and do Q&As or different fun things as well.
So I want to ask you about the buffalo. So was it Ken Burns that did a documentary, right? And I for whatever reason I didn't watch the whole thing. I was in the middle of something else. So I watched part of it, and uh the part that I watched, to me, communicated the message that the slaughter of the buffalo over like a 3-year period where they wiped out, what, 30 million of them, something insane, and then they would sell the hides to Europe and then just leave the carcasses to rot, basically decimating the entire resource supply of these native people. Yeah. But the way it was presented made it seem like it was some sort of innocent greed adventure. And then, oops, when they ran out of buffalo, they were on to their next killing spree. Um, so what, starting with you, Rebekka, and then I want to hear from you, Candice, about this. Well, what's your take on it? You can
On
be real honest here. We like that. But
on the
I would,
documentary, you mean?
not even the
Or
documentary, just no, the actual situation as you perceive it around what happened with the buffalo. Because to me,
oh.
it's one of the most horrific it's up there with the Holocaust. It is a Holocaust. It's a
Mhm.
Holocaust. To me, it's a Holocaust. So I'm just wondering, like, your people directly experience this.
Yeah, I like to give this metaphor that the Western way of thinking about things is that I have this tissue here and I can do whatever I want with it. Let's say this is natural resources, this is buffalo, whatever. I can do what I want for my advantage. I'm going to use it for my benefit, right? Because I need to make a livelihood to provide for my family. I need to blow my nose. But Native people, you see this resource, we live with it, and it's a part of us. And it's not more important, it's not less important than a human life. I would say it's not less important than a human life. A bug's life, we got to kill bugs all the time to keep them out of our houses, but their lives aren't. There's a reason why Creator put all of these different lives on this planet, and it's all to benefit each other. But we have to learn how to live within each other. We have to find that harmony, right? Get back to that harmony. And I like to see when Native people are on these forefronts of these eco advocacy things when these things are happening, because we have that ancient knowledge from way back in our ancestors who have been living with these natural resources and animals and fish and everything, and respectfully so, in a way that is beneficial to the earth and the planet, and not taking and not just stripping and taking like we are today. I was just at a tribal council meeting and one of our elders said, we're screwed. Everybody has plastics in their body at this moment. We're drinking this plastic bottle right here, getting more plastics into your body. We're all screwed. We all have poison in us. And it didn't used to be like that. When we lived here peacefully, harmoniously within all of these animal people. That's what we say is all of these are people as well. These Buffalo people, they were their own tribe, they were their own people. They had elders, wisdom, and things like that to be shared. And so they have teachings for us. And for the Western way of thinking, it's not so much of accepting that or seeing that or taking the time to see it. It's profits. It's how can I make a living in this Western way of thinking, not this in this I way instead of this we way, right? So
Thank you. And
Yeah.
Candice, oh yeah, what's your perspective?
I agree with that. Sometimes because I'm in Hollywood, so sometimes I have that, I'm in LA, I have that mentality of like, okay, you do what you got to do to get things done. But Rebekka is always wonderful, and speaking with her kind of helps me shift that mindset. Like, it's not all about the money. It's not all about this. Remember your purpose. Remember why you're doing this. Remember your mission. And I do think that has a lot to do with the genocide of Buffalo. And I do think not only was it in fact something to, you know, make money and be greedy, but I also think it was a way to create more genocide for Native people in general. You take away their biggest resource where they use everything, every part of that animal in one way or another, and then respect that animal and thank it for its life for providing so much for them. You wipe out the number one resource, what are they going to do? So, chain of events, things go down the line, you wipe out the buffalo, you wipe out natives. So that's kind of, I think of it too.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, I'm just looking at my questions here. What are some challenges that Dear Woman Productions has faced in the industry, if any? Oh, you got stories. Go
if we're
for
going to
it.
be completely honest,
Yes, the more honest, the better.
there's two of us, right? So capacity for one, mental health. I mean, we struggle sometimes with our own mental health, and we balance each other out a lot, which is really nice. But we got to take space for that. But we get pulled in so many directions where that's tough on us too, because people see the things like this or hear about these projects that we're doing, and they're like, well, we want a piece of that. We want to be a part of that. I want to feel good about all these things my ancestors did. So let me help you. It's been like that for real. So I would say our capacity, it's limited. We're growing, but it's going to be a slow and steady process.
Mm-hmm.
But the pulling us in different directions has not been slow and steady. We cannot.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty interesting because we just officially opened back in November, and it's been like 8 months, and we both have been in this industry for a really long time. And for me in LA, kind of, like struggling to make it somewhere sometimes. Like my background's a lot in music videos and like narrative features. And um, to open this with Rebekka and start this mission and start this organization, I don't think that I was expecting us to kind of get so much traction so quickly. And it's definitely a blessing. Like, I am not complaining about that at all. I like to see that, that there is a demand for it, that people do want it, people want to work with us. That's very rewarding and very makes me hopeful for the future. But it's a lot. It is a lot. Like, we have many projects happening at this moment. Also funding sometimes can be hard. We definitely need more funding for projects, especially for the types of stories that we're trying to tell. And sometimes it's hard to get in the door with bigger projects because we are women, because we're a Native company, because, like, of what we look like, like, I'm a queer woman living in Los Angeles. that's different than a queer woman living in Arkansas. But still, like, just being who we are can be sometimes even a hurdle to get over within the industry.
I have so many questions for you both, and I don't even know if I'll ask them very well, but I'll start with you, Rebekka. So what is it, if you could tell people who aren't from an indigenous tribe or a native tradition, right? They're like me, I'm descended from Europeans, right? Which I don't have much control over now. But I do notice a lot of people descended from Europeans still don't seem to know American history, like even a little bit. Um, so, and we're not really speaking to those people on this podcast. We're not, because they're not listening. But for the men and women listening who are hearing about this, really the storytelling, you're storytellers, right? Ultimately, you're like, yeah, it's service, yeah, but it's like you're telling the visual oral traditions so that it's not lost, right? Because there's so much that could be lost. So I don't know if I'm asking this very well, but for the people that are listening and watching who do care but maybe don't understand or feel like I don't know how to get involved. I mean, other than donating money, donate money, people. The link's in the description. Donate money to help these women with their project. But other than donating money, how can people how can they become more, I don't know, aware or more contributory in their own community? I don't even know what I'm asking, but I'm sure you have thoughts.
Yeah, definitely. I think coming in with a good heart is one idea. Whatever space you're entering, come in with a good heart and the intention to learn, not with the previous ideas that you have, because oftentimes people will come in and then come in and just say ignorant things or make ignorant assumptions about our communities. So I would just say, ask questions, but ask them respectfully and then not in a way where you're framing them. So for example, don't say, I hear that a lot of reservations don't have water. Did you have running water growing up? Because that's really offensive. And that's been asked to me before. Um, and yes, I've always had water growing up and satellite television as well. Electricity, so fancy. Living in this 21st century. But I can't imagine, like I can't tell you how many times I get little remarks like that and it wears people down. Like I hope nobody ever asks my kids if they grew up in a teepee or if they lived in a teepee. I hope that never happens. And that's why I work so hard to make these films and all of these projects happen and other things that I'm working on as well. Because I don't want that future for our kids. I want a understanding, but ignoring it is not the answer. Just because you don't know how to ask the questions doesn't mean you should not ask those questions. Still ask the questions, but maybe just start by I really mean this in a good way and in the best way, and my heart is in the right place, or something like that. But don't try to say things in a way that are making assumptions. First of all, go to those events, those powwows, whatever ceremonies you see, and try to get involved with the community in some way or another. If it's just going to an event and supporting those vendors that are there, buy food, buy art, things like that. Support those Native people, trying to make a living through those ways. Other things you can do, there's lots, we're impact producers right now. We're national. We're looking into all of these cities, all of these areas across the United States and the world, where we're focusing heavily on the United States, and every place has a Native community. And every place has something like an Indian center or some sort of Native American organization. What's around you? You can do as little as implementing daily things like a land acknowledgement, and that could be on your website. That could be something you start things off with when you have a crowd of people for an event. You do some research, see which tribes were in that land before it was taken from them, and acknowledge them, and say, I'm in the unceded territory of the Shawnee people right here in Lawrence, Kansas. And that's something out of respect that you could do and acknowledge this is stolen land. it's just a basic acknowledgement at this point, but that's kind of where we're at in America at the basic level is acknowledging this history of our people, which has been ignored for so long or pushed under the rug or put into a small condensed chapter in high school history or social studies books, right? Educate yourself. What are the tribes that live there now? Within that land acknowledgement, you can acknowledge the tribes that are in this area, in that state right now, and name those off. We have 4 here in Kansas: the Kickapoo, the Potawatomi, the Iowa, the Sac and Fox. And how can you, pay respect to them? How can you get involved with them? And a lot of them are struggling. A lot of our tribes are struggling, and we have businesses that you can buy your products from. We were saying buy local, buy tribal too, because my tribe, we sell honey. We have all kinds of produce that are coming out now too, and we do hemp products. And so we have a lot of businesses as Native people are very entrepreneurial, that you can support. Hey, go to the casino. No, I don't. I don't care. Still giving money to the tribe some way. I go to the casino every once in a while. I'll take my gamble, but and just I listened to this podcast last year, and I couldn't find it. I was trying to find it. These wonderful ladies in NPR, they had this project called I can't remember, something abilia. I can't remember. Invisibilia, that's what it is. They had this episode called Eat the Rich, and it's about I think like Virginia, Wisconsin, or not Wisconsin, Virginia, Maryland, over in that area. There's a lot of intergenerational wealth because of people coming in and setting up plantations and building wealth, things like that in those areas. And the Black population is very, very low. So during COVID, they set up this thing where they made an Excel spreadsheet of a list of Black people in that area and their cash apps. And they said, they had this disclaimer that was written by a white person, that said something along the lines of, we have all this intergenerational wealth. We need to spread the wealth out because Black people in this area don't have that intergenerational wealth. They didn't have the ability or the opportunity to make that. And so, just blindly giving money to these individuals, these families. And they said, they challenged their people too. They said, give as much as would actually affect you, because every single day, these Black people are being affected financially every day. So we want you to give the amount that would actually have an impact on you, that would actually affect you. And I think that was a great project that they did, and I'm glad they did it too. And it's definitely something to look into more. But spread that wealth. Like we don't need all of this wealth for one family, for one person, right? There's so much that people can do in terms of just giving money or helping to set up different endowments for Native programming. I oversee the University of Kansas Native Storytelling Workshop. We bring in Native American high school kids from all over the US to KU for a week, and they get to spend a week there and work with professional the top tier Native American journalists in our nationwide in our news programs. They come in, they work with them for a week, and then we send them home with the tools and the experience of how to create a podcast. How do you do broadcast TV news? How do you make documentary? How can you write a good published piece? Because we work on getting this stuff published too. And so, blindly giving to projects like that are trying to uplift Native communities is huge. It's huge. I mean, people say, where do I give my money? Do not give it to that Catholic Joseph school. It's run by white people, and a lot of those white people steal the money. So you have to be very careful. There's a whole list out there online, if you look, of places that you should not donate to that are stealing money from Native tribes. But there are a lot of really good grassroots programs that are run by Native people that you can give to, like Dear Woman Productions as well.
Yes, give money to Dear Woman.
Right. Give us a money, not more ideas or more work.
Exactly. Because you gotta do the projects you already have in the pipeline. Candice, anything you want to add on this particular topic?
Yeah, I think definitely support any way you can. But also show up and listen. Like really listen. you know, don't come in with all your existing ideas and blurt them out. Listen, take a second and sit on it, process it, think it, feel it, and then speak.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, what are some goals for Dear Woman Productions in the next 5 years or so?
You could take that one, Candice.
Okay. So we definitely have quite a few projects in our pipeline. You know, we have the horror film for sure. That was actually a project that Peyton wrote, and she wrote it as a pilot. We are currently changing it into a feature-length film. And hopefully going into production next year sometime, fingers crossed. Yeah, so that is definitely something we want to achieve within the next 5 years. Growing our little Dear Woman community, you know, like getting more people hired on, you know, really kind of get the name out there, get more help for it. You know, if you're a filmmaker out there listening to this and you're native and you want to get in touch with us, send us your reel. Like if you're new to the industry, we have an internship program. So, you know, you come in, apply for our internship program, and all that will be in below where Beth is going to wonderfully put everything. But yeah, definitely apply. Like we want to be able to just nourish this little organization that we have going on, and really try to reach as many people as possible. And you know, like again, if you have interest, please reach out. You know, if you want to become a part of the Dear Woman community, reach out.
And again, everyone listening, the links will be in the description. And I'm taking it because you're a nonprofit. If people donate money, it's tax deductible. Yes.
That's right.
Yeah, that's great.
Absolutely.
That is great. So we have a little more time. I'm going to ask you both this question. Rebekka, if you were in charge, what would you like to see change? Let's say in the United States of America, what would be your, top 1 to 3? You don't have to come up with 3, but 1 to 3 policy changes or um, anything at all that you think would be beneficial to more human beings having access, right?
Yeah.
To a good life, basically.
So I'm not political. I do not envy politics. I'm like, get me away from politics. I would run the other way. I would not be the person running this country, which is probably the thing that a person who should be running the country would say.
Would be you. You'd be the perfect person. The perfect leader is the one that deeply cares, is super organized. It doesn't really want to be the leader because there's no ego in it for you. It's just do the right thing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So we vote for you for president. Okay. So now that you're president, because by popular demand, you got into office because all the women came out and voted for you. And all the others who just want to see things change. So what would you do?
I would take this from the perspective of the things that I'm doing right now. I'm fighting really hard to make our programs free and accessible at KU. This project, this summer program that I'm talking, I have to fight so hard to decolonize these ideas of deadlines. For one, like deadlines in Indian country do not go. There's a reason Indian time is a thing, and there's a lot that goes into that, and there's a lot of there's a lot that goes into that. So, you know, advocating that people do give money to these appropriate places, of these places that are doing good work. And really, our environment is, I really worry for my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, and have this deep fear that one day this world is just going to implode and people aren't going to be able to live on it anymore, because I think we're going so fast down this track of destruction of our environment and nobody's stopping to change it. Like, it's very slowly happening with eco cars. It's very slowly happening with people recycling, but you can't recycle if you live out in the country. It doesn't exist. And here in town, we have to pay to recycle. They don't make it easy. And then now there's rumors going around on campus that the recycling just gets thrown away anyway. So students have completely given
That's
up on
true.
that. Yeah, yeah. And
Most recycling goes in the landfill or
yeah.
sold to Europe for money.
And so people get completely, they're like, why might as well just throw it in the trash, then pay somebody to throw it in the trash again, So it's that focus on the environment that we actually need to have. And I mean, we don't have to be flying planes constantly, right? And that 2 weeks of COVID where everybody was seriously locked down and the nature started coming back and there was fish in rivers that hadn't been in these streams before. I mean, let's just take 2 weeks out of our year at the bare minimum to just be inside or whatever, maybe camp. I don't know what the solution is there, but we need to get our environment, our Mother Earth, our Hina Maya needs to be the top priority, or we will have nothing else as a priority. That's it, because we won't even be here. Like life itself won't exist. So that's gonna be my biggest thing is treat the environment, our Hina Maya, that's how you say Earth Mother and Iowa Bakoje language. So that, I mean, I don't even need three, give money to the right people in the right places and focus on the environment.
I love that. Thank you. And Candice, what would you like to influence? I think that's what I've been trying to like, this is how Rebekka would influence. How would you influence, Candice?
I think I would step down and put Rebekka in charge.
Oh, I gotta
like,
she's like, oh goody, another thing to be in charge of. Yay.
Because I'm kind of like Rebekka. I don't politics are something I don't think I would ever want to, but I definitely would focus on the environment as well, because we're going to hell in a handbasket right now, and it seems like we're on fire and we can't put the fire out. Like I trying to do the right thing when so many other things are kind of pushing back on you is exhausting. And creating new ways to actually implement these environmental needs, that would be something that I would really like to get behind and move to the foreground if I were in politics, but I'm not. So we do little by little here and there in what we can. But yeah, politics for me, it's a rough one. It's a rough one. I always end up crying after, reading or watching CNN or, and then you don't even know what's real. What's real, what's not real, what are they lying to us about, what are they hiding, so it just seems like it's this constant circle or a merry-go-round that you can't get off. And the merry-go-round, something new comes as you go around every single time. You don't know what's true, you don't know what's not true, you don't know where you're headed. Are you ever going to get off this merry-go-round? Is the merry-go-round going to catch on fire? I don't know. So yeah.
Thank you both for sharing that. Yeah. It's interesting. I don't really worry about Mother Nature. I worry about the children. And I would just encourage you probably to do this, but the more kids that know the traditions, the more kids that know the languages, the more kids that know how to survive in the wilderness, because they'll bring that with them. They'll be the change in our species. And I do think I'm not saying the awareness on nature isn't important. Obviously it is. Plastics and everything, it's a problem. But when your child, what's your child's name?
Elizabeth.
When Elizabeth came in, that was my birth name. When Elizabeth came in, like just seeing her and her innocence and her wonder and her need, in that openness. Those are the beings that can actually absorb this knowledge without resistance, So I want to just keep encouraging you, both of you. I don't have any advice other than that. Like, I'm just so glad to see the children, because if they are treated as the special, unique beings they are, and they carry this knowledge, and seeing you two women do this beautiful collaboration together, each being your own unique self. I mean, that's why I asked Candice, and then she told me a bit about what she was doing with you, Rebekka. And I'm just so deeply moved by what both of you are doing, because it's absolutely exactly the thing we're here for. I think, my not so humble opinion, but I do. I think that's why they're here. And I figure, since I am descended from the colonialists with the resources who set up the whole effing thing that's really just a shadow of Britain, never really changed. They never gave up. They always had slaves, the slaves, it just kept going, right? Just go conquer. I remember there was I think it was a Wampanoag man I spoke to here when I was like 13. And I was crying, and I felt so bad. And I said, we're just polluting everything. You remember you probably don't remember it because you two weren't born then, but there was this commercial with this very somber native man, right? And he'd
Yeah.
tear when people throw the trash out of the car. And it was just like, oh God, we're just polluting our earth. And so I said to him, I said, but it's terrible. We're colonizers and we're polluting. And he's like, relax. We threw stuff on the ground too. It just was biodegradable. And if we had the numbers and the weapons, we would have won. So just chill. And he's like, my goal is to get the stories out. Right? And so that's what I'm just connecting dots in my own history, right? That you two are getting the story out. So before we wrap up here, Candice, what would you say? And I want to ask this of both of you, but Candice, I'll start with you. What would you say to the aspiring filmmaker to encourage them to not give up on their dream? Because you fought really hard for this. And you had a bunch of shit jobs, and you went through long periods with no money, almost no money, right? So what was it that kept you going?
Find the purpose that drives you. Find that little voice inside of you that really, really wants it, and stick to it, and do not give up. You're going to want to give up. You're going to want to throw things at the wall out of frustration, because you don't know, you're working so hard and you don't know if you're ever going to make it. And find a place within you where you have already made it, because you 5 years ago, if you're on a path of where you're supposed to be, and that you really want to do this and you really love it, and you keep falling in love with it even more every time you get on a project, you're going to be in a different place 5 years from now. And just remember that growth. Remember where you were 5 years ago. Remember where you were 6 months ago. Remember where you were 2 years ago. Like, you could be in a completely different place tomorrow, and it'll happen like that, and you won't even see it coming. Do not give up. Believe in yourself. Believe that you can do it. Believe. Don't give up on that belief, ever. Ever.
Candice is my #1 rooter. She's always rooting for me, and I just love it because she's so inspiring. And I really appreciate you, especially, day to day. Sometimes it's hard, but Candice is there, like, you got this, you're a badass, and just reminding me, like, we're doing this together and we're in this together. And I really, really appreciate that about you, Candice.
I appreciate everything about you, Rebekka. You're amazing. You're such a badass, like, creative. Like, I have the best business partner ever.
So do I.
She's perfect.
So do I.
And friend.
Yeah, exactly.
Rebekka, how come? So first that question, and I have another question for you. What would you say to someone?
I came from a very humble situation. I sometimes didn't always have food. Sometimes. And I had no idea where I was going, but I knew that it was going to be a better life because I always remembered things that my elders would tell me is, think about your ancestors and how hard they worked and how much they prayed for you to be here today. And I heard this really great quote at a film festival one time that the uh, the prayers of your ancestors are in the wind that you breathe in today. And that really centers me. Sometimes it centers me and it makes me feel like I can take this on and I need to act like my ancestors did and try to provide a better future for the future generations, the future of my people and humanity in general. And so whatever decision you make today can affect generations. They say 7 generations ahead of you is what that can affect. So, be thinking about that. And whenever you're talking to people, I mean, share, it's all networking, right? Like, I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't make good connections with people. If I didn't talk to my professors, that's how I became a professor. When I was in school, I would talk to my professors and I would get to know them and, just on a human level. And I was able to benefit from that later, having no idea. They knew that I was a student that had dreams, ideas. I was sitting in one of my classes one day and they went around, what do you want to be when you grow up? And a lot of people were like, oh, I want to work for Cosmopolitan magazine, or I want to be a radio announcer, or whatever it may have been. And I said, I want to change the world. And that professor's the one that got me the job that I have today. I was sitting in her class. I was like, I want to change the world. She was like, that's a big one. How are you going to do it? And I was like, I have no idea, but I'm going to work my ass off to do it. And that's what I'm doing. Still doing. So still working on changing the world, but keep that dream and communicate those dreams, those wants that you have, as silly as it may sound. I mean, I'm sitting in this classroom where people have attainable goals and I'm like, I'm going to change the world. Be that silly person, be that dream, because people really gravitate towards that. They want to give you those opportunities once you see that somebody has inspiration. People want to follow that. People want to follow something positive. So yeah.
All right. So, final question for you, Rebekka, and then for you, Candice. So, what do you attribute, Rebekka, to your at least what I'm experiencing, I have through this whole interview, you're very balanced, peaceful nature. What do you attribute that to?
Lately, meditation and dedicating 5 minutes. Well, I start with, I'm just going to do 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening, but it turns into more. I I pull for more of that meditation, and meditation can come in all kinds of forms. For me, sometimes it's doing beadwork, it's doing different crafts, it's doing art, it's getting creative, getting in the zone, writing a story, whatever it may be that helps you to just feel relaxed and in this moment. That's a big thing because I have anxiety and PTSD, and I'm constantly thinking ahead too far. I'm thinking too much ahead. So this is more of like a practice that I've
Mm.
done since I was a kid, but I keep coming back to that practice, and I've been doing it a lot more lately too. So meditation, that's huge. And then thinking, hearing those voices of my ancestors in my head, like the voices that I've made up, because I'm like, all my ancestors or my elders have told me, oh, and I've shared some of these things today, and just referring back to those things, or just thinking, what would Peyton say in this situation? What would Peyton do in this situation? So all of these mentors that I've had, all of these ancestors I've had, how can I respect them, honor them, make them proud, make them alive today in some way? That's been a big motivation for me.
Mm. Thank you. Candice, how about you? What keeps you centered? Keeps you calm?
Um, let's see, Rebekka. Like, I feel like, and we've discussed this, we definitely are two different individuals coming together to create this organization. And I'm a little bit more of like the aggressive person within the industry and within things, and like fighting for what we need and fighting for who we are. And I'm not afraid to write the email that needs to be written. But Rebekka, even just like talking to her, texting her, like she helps center me. And also we have a thing, what would Peyton do? What would Peyton do? I ask myself that a lot, like I'm ADHD, I'm dyslexic. So in my daily life, I have some hurdles that I have to like get over in order to even organize a spreadsheet. So definitely remember to take some time of self-care for myself, whether it is just listening to my favorite song or taking a bath or putting on a face mask for 20 minutes and then getting up and going back to work. Like, take that time for yourself because it's really, really necessary to move on with the day. You feel good, you're going to put out better work and be able to organize your brain a little bit more.
Thank you. Thank you, both of you. Thank you.
Thank
This is
you.
profound.
Yeah, thank you.
Maybe you'll come back again and we actually look at your human design next time. Would you like that?
Yeah,
That'd
I
be
would love
cool.
that.
And we can, well, you know what I want to do? Because I haven't done this on the podcast. We could do a connection chart. The audience would love to see that, but you would too. We do each your chart and then see how you connect to show
Yeah,
how auras do their thing.
Mm-hmm.
that'd be cool.
I've been thinking a lot about something I heard this guy say. I wish I could remember his name, but anyway, it was something on Instagram. But he was talking about a tree, and I love trees. I love all nature, but trees are stuff. And so he was saying how that humans want to reach up and they want to go towards the sun and they want to be all shiny, but the what holds a tree in place is the roots, and the roots mirror the branches, right? So it's this mirroring system, and that we've got to go down into the dark, into the deep, and anchor ourselves, and we've got to do all that work down there before it even sprouts into the light. And what I'm seeing in both of you is that you're putting down roots, you're finding your roots, you're rooting again. Because I think of so many indigenous peoples when colonization happens all over the planet, right? And I think the younger generations, which I would include myself in, we're like, it's fine for you to move around, but you got to stop conquering people. Like, enough enslavement, killing, right? We've all had enough of that. I think we can agree on that. But when you're not the colonizer, you have to move, and that destroys that deep connection to the land, right? That got established over thousands of years. It's like they didn't even rip up your roots. They just chopped you down and threw the log in the back of the truck, right? So I see what you two are doing is like you're repairing like that tear in the land, the tear in the soul. And it just reminds me that repair is always possible. And you two are repairing and restoring and reorganizing and creating something new that hasn't existed before. So if you ever doubt yourselves, don't. You will, but don't. The world needs more people like you who are so in your hearts and not wrapped up in nonsense, not part of the angry mob, but actually creating on behalf of humanity. So just from the bottom of my heart, thank you both. You're both extraordinary.
Thank you.
Welcome. All right, everyone. It's been another episode of Aligned to Your Design, and stay tuned. We'll get these two women back to look at their connection chart. Bye for now.